For those of us that have been in the church for any amount of time, the Lord's Supper every first day of the week can become somewhat of a ritual. We get up on Sunday morning, we get dressed, we get the kids dressed, we throw a Pop-Tart in the toaster, we drag everyone to the car, fight the traffic to get here, have a prayer or two, sing a few songs, take the Lord's Supper, hear the sermon, and go to class, maybe. Then we head back to the car and reverse the morning process. But when it comes to the routine, quote unquote, of the Lord's Supper, this can be seen in a couple of different areas, and I'm sure I'm going to be stepping on some toes here, including my own, but so be it. One area it can be seen as becoming a ritual, kind of like the sacrament of the Catholic Church, and as soon as we do it, we can leave and go on with our regular lives without staying here for the rest of the service. Another is when we're on vacation, wherever we might be, and think it's important to partake of the Lord's Supper, so we can take the Lord's Supper emblems with us and just sit around on Sunday and sometime during that time span, partake of the Lord's Supper. But partaking of the Lord's Supper is not all that God requires of us on the first day of the week. What about encouraging one another, singing songs of praise, laying aside as we prospered, praying, etc.? Lord's Supper is only one of the elements, even though it's a very important element of worship. 1 Corinthians 11:17 through 19 reads, "But in the following instructions, I do not commend you, because when you come together, it's not for the better, but for the worse. For in the first place, when you come together as a church, I hear there are divisions among you. And I believe it in part, for there must be factions among you, in order that those who are genuine among you may be recognized." So he says it has a purpose. In this particular instance, the purpose is, as is said in Matthew 3:12, to separate the wheat from the chaff. How do we deal with those that we are divided with? Though Matthew 5:23 and 24 is not specific to the Lord's Supper area, we can take an inference from it when dealing with someone of the importance of the Lord's Supper and taking it in in an unworthy matter. Matthew 5, starting in verse 23, "So if you are offering your gift at the altar, and therefore remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother, and then come and offer your gift." How can we partake in an unworthy manner? It tells us here that one of the things that we tend to overlook is when we are having problems with a brother and not doing anything to take care of that problem. In verse 27 through 32 of 1 Corinthians 11, it tells us, "Before taking the Lord's Supper, let a person examine himself, and so eat of the bread and drink of the cup. For anyone who eats and drinks without discerning the body eats and drinks judgment on himself. This is why many of you are weak and heal, and some have died. But if we judged ourselves truly, we would not be judged. But when we are judged by the Lord, we are disciplined so that we may not be condemned along with the world." So as you can tell by careful study of the New Testament, there might be other ways we can judge ourselves, and therefore might not be discerning properly prior to partaking of the Lord's Supper. Examine yourselves in all areas, actions and motives behind those actions. At this point, we'll partake of the Lord's Supper.